Greetings, TVR2A. This is your video walkthrough of Pro Tools Lab number 5 on a PC laptop. And this is called edit number 2, also known as PIGS. And again, I'll be doing this using the free version of Pro Tools, which is called Pro Tools Intro. I'm using a PC laptop running Windows 10. I am also using a Sennheiser headset microphone, and we'll also be downloading some necessary files. So for this particular lab, you'll be downloading a zip file, and that zip file is going to contain a WAV file, but it's also going to contain a Pro Tools session. So in this case, you won't be creating a new Pro Tools session. You'll actually be opening an existing Pro Tools session. And in that session, there'll already be an audio file, and you'll be doing some edits, editing out some mistakes, changing the order of some events, and then lastly, you'll be replacing a word with another word that you'll be given as a WAV file. So there's multiple steps in this particular lab, but it should be pretty straightforward once you get used to the fact that you're actually working with a pre-existing Pro Tools session. All right, so in Canvas, you'll want to go ahead and go down to your week 4. This is week 4.4, and the project is called Pro Tools Lab 5, edit number 2, also known as PIGS. And we'll go ahead and click on it. So remember, you won't do start assignment until you're all finished and ready to upload your file, but you will need to download this zip file. So go ahead and click on the download link to the right hand side of the file name. Okay, it's a relatively small file, so it should be pretty quick. There's also a set of instructions here that you'll want to download so that you can read along with the project. But let's go ahead and go into the download folder and move that into our documents folder that we've been using. So it is a zip file, so we can go ahead and unzip it first, and that simply means double click. And now you'll see it says edit exercise 2 rev 2. And you're going to click and drag this into the documents directory. Once you've dragged it there, you'll open up your documents directory. You will locate that folder, which is edit exercise 2 rev 2, and let's drag that into our TVR2A sessions folder, and now it's inside of here. So edit exercise 2, it is a folder, notice, and you double click, and let's inspect what's in this folder. I have a Pro Tools file, which is this one right here. You can see the logo looks like Pro Tools. And technically that's called the PTX file. That's the extension. I also have a WAV file that says Dunbar. Don't know what that is. And then I have an audio files folder which already has a file in it, and that's the one that Pro Tools will need. So in this case, we won't launch Pro Tools. We'll actually just double click on this edit exercise 2 file, and it will launch Pro Tools for us. Let's go ahead and double click on this file. Alright, so it is launching. It's asking that there are some missing output paths. So we'll fix all of this later, but we'll go ahead and just choose no. Now I do have Pro Tools session open. We did not have to add any tracks because the track was already built into it. Since this is an existing session, we do need to also verify our playback engine. Here it says the input. Again, we're not recording into Pro Tools for this lab, so that does not matter, but the output does matter. And make sure you've configured the output to either be your laptop speakers or a pair of headphones or something like this. That's how you're going to hear the playback of this session. All right, last thing I want to do is I do want to take a look at the mixer, and that's going to be control and the equal sign. And what I'm looking for here, it says output 1-2, and it does give me a long list now, but I just need to make sure I'm using the one that has a little speaker icon right here. And I do have two options. They both should work, but we'll go ahead and keep it here for now and see what happens.
A pleasant good afternoon to you. This is a pleasant good afternoon.
Good. So that's working. I'm using my main output in this case, and when I hit the space bar, it does play back. All right, so that is the hard work where we get the session open and making sure that it's working. If you don't hear any audio, you will need to check that playback engine out, but if that's still not the case, you may need to fool around with the output section on yours. It might be main, it might be output 1-2, but what you're looking for is usually the one that has a little speaker icon next to it, and that should work. But let's go ahead and hit the enter key and then spacebar and give this a listen. I'll let the whole thing play.
A pleasant good afternoon to you. This is Steve Julian with the KPCC News Watch. Here is the latest breaking news for Southern California. The Foothill Freeway has been closed down when a truck full of pigs tipped over with more than 100 of the animals still roaming the freeway. In sports, Pasadena City College professor Jeff Rudisil bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas bowling lanes this past weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
It's a week of psychopaths, murderers, werewolves, murdering, marauding maniacs. This marvelous week of murder begins when you're dead. A malicious tale about a maniac with a deadly eye for murder. All this begins Monday on Channel 7's 3:30 movie.
This is 89.3 KPCC Pasadena, Southern California Public Radio.
Taking a quick check at the weather, we'll have clouds, low clouds with a chance of sprite wrinkles, light sprinkles. Now back to the music on KPCC with this all-time classic from my personal collection.
I do my makeup in somebody else's car.
Chaka.
We ordered different drinks at the same bars.
All right, I'll stop it there. So you heard all sorts of variety of mistakes and problems that we'll need to do editing for in order to correct them. So let's go ahead and take it back to the beginning. Now on the PDF file that you're looking at, it will tell you that there is a script, and again, it's going to have bracketed numbers. And anytime you see that bracket, it means that there is some sort of problem that needs to be dealt with. Now, I am going to be in slip mode, although I will change in and out of slip and shuffle. Notice this track is called VO, that's for voiceover. And then I'm looking here at my minutes and seconds. I've also slightly zoomed in. You can always make the tracks larger or smaller by clicking and dragging. And then here at the top, I'm looking at 5-second increments. So I'll go ahead and do letter T. So I zoom in, so I'm looking at seconds go by. Right, the very first issue is there is a little bit of dead space at the beginning. Let's go ahead and play it.
A pleasant good afternoon to you.
It's very slight, but it's about a quarter of a second. So let's go ahead and remove that. So I'm going to do some more zooms. I'm going to do shuffle, upper left hand corner, and I'm in the smart tool mode, and I'm just going to trim that beginning dead space away. So now it begins. I'm hitting enter key to go back to the beginning and space bar.
A pleasant good afternoon to you. This is Steve.
Okay, so that's number 1. The next one is number 2, and when he says this is Steve, and then you hear like a weird pig, the pig should not be there. We need to remove any evidence of the pig sound at that moment.
Steve,
It's like a zipper and then a pig. So zipper and pig sound all has to go. So it should clearly go,
Steve,
it should say Steve
Julian with
Julian. So his name is Steve Julian. So that's everything in between needs to be removed. I'll do this using the shuffle mode. Remember that will snap the clip back together. So let's find our in point. It's right about here. I'm going to do letter B. Letter B is a shortcut for break. Keyboard focus is activated here.
Julian.
And then right where it says Julian, I'm going to do letter B again. I have this big piece. I clicked it once with that grabber tool, which is from the Smart tool, and I'm use backspace key. And now back up and listen to it.
Is Steve Julian with the K.
It's pretty close.
This is Steve Julian.
Now, I don't like that edit because it sounds a little bit abrupt.
Steve Julian with the.
So it feels like I've lost a little bit of something here. So I'm going to fine tune the end of Steve. So shuffle mode, I'm going to click. I'm going to just reveal it. Maybe let's go this far and give it a listen.
Steve Julian with.
I'm going to keep going. Let's try about this far.
Steve Julian with.
Close. I'm going to keep going. How about here?
A pleasant good afternoon. Steve Julian.
Almost. I cut out some of the V. So let's go here.
Steve Julian with the K.
That's better, right?
Steve Julian with the KPC.
There we go. Steve Julian. So I had made too much of a cut for the end of the word Steve. So I just brought it back. I almost call this the untrim tool in this case. So I'm using the trimmer, but I'm actually untrimming it, and I'm bringing back the part that I had cut out. So the way I'm doing this is I'm going to the left side of the cut. I'm clicking and dragging to the right, and when I do that, I'm actually expanding that track back to where it was. So I think it sounds better now. Let's give it a listen.
Steve Julian with the KPCC Newswatch. Here's the latest breaking news for Southern California. The Foothill Freeway has been closed down when a truck full of pigs tipped over with more than 100 of the animals still roaming the freeway.
All right, so here's the fun. So let's zoom out. So I'm using letter R, and notice
Freeway.
he talked about the freeway, but then we hear a sound of bowling. And our goal here is to have some production value so that when he's talking about the pigs on the freeway, that we hear like the pigs. So we want to hear some pigs making noise when he's talking about that story. And then later on, he's going to talk about a bowling story. And when we hear the bowling story, we want to hear this bowling ball sound. So we're actually going to chop this up, but not delete the clips. And then we're going to create a new track and have a second track playing at the same time. And that's going to contain our sound effects. So that'll be our sound effects track. Okay, so we got a few new things that we're going to be doing here. So let's go ahead and first make our breaks. So here is the beginning of the bowling ball.
Freeway.
Bowling ball is right about here. So I'm going to do letter B, and I'm going to go all the way to the end of the bowling ball section.
In sport. In sport.
It's right before he says in sports. I'm going to do letter B again. Now I have this clip. Now instead of deleting it, I actually want to keep it. I just want to move it off of this track. But before I do that, I'm going to show you a new technique, and that's changing the name of a clip. Now, the clip name is in the upper left-hand corner of any clip. You see it says VO08. This one says VO09. I don't want it to say VO08. I want it to say whatever the sound is, which is bowling ball. So let's double click with the grabber. So I come down towards the bottom, I'll get the hand tool. I'll double click, and that's the shortcut to rename. And I'm going to call this bowling ball. And now look, at the upper left hand corner, it's giving me that name. So I can identify it without having to play it. And I do want to move it away. I want to move it off of this track. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to jump into slip mode. And I'm going to create a new track down below right here. So let's learn how to create the new track. So our create the new track is Shift, Control, and the letter N for new. That's my new track dialog, and I'm simply doing create one new mono audio track in Tix, and it says to give it a name. I'm going to name this SFX, which is my sound effects, and I'll go ahead and click OK. You'll see it puts a new track below. I'll enlarge it, and it calls it SFX. So now I have my voiceover on top. My SFX track is here on the bottom. Now watch out for this next step, because if you accidentally are in shuffle and you go and try to drag this and move it down like I'm about to do, if you're in shuffle mode, it's going to throw it all the way to the very beginning of the track. But if I'm in slip mode is freehand. If I click and drag it down, see, it just remains, and then I can click and move it around as needed. And that's because I'm in slip mode. Now for now, I don't care where it goes because it's not in the right place. But I do want to go ahead and pull this section of the VO back towards this section. Now, I can manually click and drag it, or I could jump back into shuffle mode. Now watch what happens when I click and drag it a little bit to the left. You see how automatically it just jumped all the way to the left. And now it sounds like this.
The animals still roaming the freeway. In sports, Pasadena City College professor Jeff Rudisill bowled a perfect 300.
Actually, I can throw the bowling ball right there where I want it. It's right when he talks about bowling, which is like in here. Now, notice I'm clicking and dragging, it's not moving. And that's because I need to go back to slip mode. Now it can freely move.
Professor Jeff Rudisill bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas Bowling Lanes this past weekend.
Just by happenstance, I actually like the placement of that sound effect.
Professor Jeff Rudisill bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas Bowling Lanes this past weekend.
Then we have those pigs. That pig sound effect is actually going to have to come over here. But you see what I've done. I just dragged this in slip mode, and so we hear the bowling ball happening when he's talking about the bowling story. But now let's go ahead and cut out the sound of the pigs.
This past weekend.
All right, the pigs are right here, so that's letter B. It really goes on for too long. Okay, so right here is the end of the pigs, a letter B. And now I'm just grabbing the scroll bar on the bottom. But I am going to rename this. Remember, that's a double click with the grabber. And this is pigs. And now I have a real long section of pigs. Now the pigs are going to happen when he's talking about the pig story.
The Foothill Freeway has,
which is the Foothill Freeway. So I need to grab those pigs and put them way over here, being careful not to cover up my bowling ball. So I'm going to put them like this, and then I'm going to cut it down because the pigs are too long. Now notice my bowling ball is here. I didn't want to accidentally cover it up because you see then I lose what I'm doing. I'm going to do Control Z. But I'm going to shorten those pigs down to maybe about this long. And now I can drag it. Again, you can only do this when you're in slip mode. So let's go ahead and hear when he's talking about the pigs, which I think is right around here.
the Foothill Freeway.
Okay, so he's going to say Foothill Freeway.
The Foothill Freeway has been closed down when a truck full of pigs tipped over with more than 100 of the animals still roaming the freeway. In sports, Pasadena.
That was pretty good. I'm going to get rid of some of this so that as soon as he says in sports, the pigs are done. Let's see if I fixed it.
100 of the animals still roaming the freeway. In sports, Pasadena City College.
All right, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? So now we got the pigs, and then he says in sports, and then he's going to talk
Pasadena
about
City
bowling.
College professor Jeff Rudisill bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas Bowling Lanes this past weekend.
All right, and now we do have this gap, and in this case, we need to grab this, and we need to put it back so that it touches the other voiceover. So I go into shuffle mode for this move. I'm going to click with the grabber, and I'm going to drag until I see that it just moved all the way over.
Last weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
In this case,
we will have the weather forecast.
actually I was thinking I need to get rid of this, but I think it actually sounds okay. Let me check it again.
Weekend. We will have the weather
Yeah,
forecast
I like
right
it.
after this short timeout.
Okay, now before I get any further, in case when you're playing this you don't hear both tracks playing back, you will need to go ahead and take a look at your mixer. So I'm going to do Control equals, and what you need to verify is that the output of the new track that you created, which is the SFX track, make sure that it matches the output of the voiceover. So my main is also my main here, so that's the same output. If it says something else, click in there and just choose the identical output so that both of those match. Very important that those two match, otherwise you're not going to hear them and you won't hear them when you do your bounce. Alright, so I think I'm happy. I actually think it's a little loud, so I'm going to turn down the SFX volume here just a little bit. That's the fader that has to do with the volume on that track.
At the Bahamas bowling lanes this past weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at our list. It says that we just finished number 5, which was swapping out the sound effects, so we've done that. But number 4 actually says there's a wrong word. It says replace the word Rudisill with the word Dunbar. You'll find the Dunbar wave file in that unzip folder. You will import it, or you'll try to drag and drop it right in. That is interesting. So that actually means in that download we did, there was that wave file. It was called Dunbar. That must be what we're going to be working with. So let's see how we can deal with this.
Bold a perfect college professor, Jeff Rudisill.
So it's about 17 seconds in.
Jeff Rudisill.
It says Jeff
Rudisill. Bold a
Rudisill. So Rudisill is right here. I'm going to go into slip.
Jeff Rudisill.
And that's this bit. I'm going to highlight it with the selector. And then let's go ahead and backspace. Now it's gone.
Professor Jeff. Bold a perfect 300.
So Jeff.
Professor Jeff.
So we want to put something in here, and that is going to be that Dunbar wave. Now let's see if we can do this with some success. So I'm going to go ahead and go locate that file. I was hoping, let's go ahead and see if I can drag and drop it in. All right, so in order to get to that documents folder, I need to move this away so I can get to it's the documents folder. So let's go ahead and locate that. Notice I still have Pro Tools open. So I'm going to go to my documents. I'm going to go to the TVR2A session. I'm going to go to the edit exercise 2 rev number 2, and there is that file. Look at that. It says Dunbar and it's a WAV file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop it just right here and just see what it does. Let's see what happens. Just drag and drop. What's the worst that can happen anyway, right? So drag and drop. I do see that it's going to cover it up a little bit. Well, we can fix that. I'm going to let it go. And look at that. It just put it right in that space.
Professor Jeff
Dunbar.
Perfect 300.
Oh, that is great. All right, so that was drag and drop method, by the way. So we didn't actually go to the import through the file menu. We actually just dragged and dropped it right into the session. But notice it did cover up what we had before. So we do need to bring that back. The way I'm going to do that is jump into Shuffle. I'm going to go to the right clip, which is here, and I'm going to drag this and reveal it.
Sir Jeff
Dunbar.
Bold a perfect 300.
Yes, that's what we need. We need to be able to hear bold. So I just untrimmed, and now we have this, which I'm actually going to trim because it's a little too long, and there's a little bit of a dead space there. I'm doing this in Shuffle so that it moves.
Professor Jeff
Dunbar.
Bold a perfect 300.
Hey, I like where this is going. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the volume. Notice that this waveform is way bigger than everything else. And there is a little helper tool that is called clip gain. And that clip gain is lower left-hand corner of the clip. So if you see a 0 dB, that means you do have access to increase or decrease the volume of that clip. Now, if you're zoomed out too much, or if I should say, if you're zoomed in too much, you might miss it. You have to zoom out enough. There we go. You have to be able to see, you see how you can't see it because I'm not zoomed in enough. So I'll do letter T again. And now I can see it's right there. Okay. So I'll even go one step further. And what I'm trying to do is grab that little tiny, looks like a line with a square right next to 0 dB. And this is where you're going to click and hold with the mouse. So just click and hold it down. You'll get a little fader. And now you can reduce the volume of that clip by dragging the mouse down and then let go. See, it says minus 5.6.
City College professor Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect 3.
And now it's a little more in line with the overall volume of that track. Don't you agree?
Pasadena City College professor Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas Bowling.
I still might do a little fine tuning. It sounds like he says Jeff.
Professor Jeff
Dun
A little fast. I'm going to try to untrim and see what happens.
Jeff
Dunbar
Just like I cut off Steve before, I cut off Jeff.
Professor Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect
That's better. And then notice there's a little tiny bit of a gap.
professor
I'm going to grab this and move it over. I'm going to grab that, move it over too.
Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas bowling lanes this past weekend.
All right, good. I'm going to drag this window back over here so you can see everything again. All right, we're making progress, folks. So we have the bowling sound, we have the name replaced.
Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas bowling lanes this past weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
All right, next is step 6, where it says remove bogus commercial. It should read short timeout, and then from that it should go right into the station ID, which is the female station ID. So we have a weird commercial that got put in here that all needs to be cut out. Starts right about here. I'm about 26 seconds in.
Short timeout.
So I'm going to go ahead and do letter B, and then go to the end of it.
Murder begins when you're dead. A malicious tale about a maniac with a deadly eye for murder. All this begins Monday on Channel 7's 3:30 movie.
All right, right about here. I'm going to do letter B. I'm in shuffle mode still, and I'll go ahead and do backspace. And let's see what we've got now. So now we have this.
The forecast right after this short timeout.
This is 89.3.
Good. So it goes from short timeout right into this station ID. Again, listen to it.
Short timeout.
This is 89.3 KPCC Pasadena, Southern California.
I think I am going to get rid of.
Weekend.
I'm going to get rid of this little bit of dead space just because it's bothering me. There we go.
Weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
This is 89.3 KPCC Pasadena, Southern California Public Radio.
Taking a
Okay, so now we're at taking a look.
Taking a quick check at the weather, we'll have clouds.
He says clouds. So this is mistake number 7 and number 8. So instead of clouds, he's supposed to say low clouds.
Now back to the music. Sprite wrinkle. Clouds, low clouds.
All right, so this is going to be easy edits because I'm in shuffle. I'm going to highlight with the selector. I'm going to do backspace. It's going to move it immediately.
We'll have low clouds with a chance of sprite wrinkles.
And then sprite wrinkles is mistake. So again, it's highlight, shuffle mode, backspace.
With a chance of light sprinkles. Now back to the music on K.
All right, so give that a listen, that little weather bit.
Taking a quick check at the weather, we'll have low clouds with a chance of light sprinkles. Now back to the music on KPCC with
Nice.
this all-time classic from my personal collection.
All right, now we have a music example, and what happened here is it sounds like the CD started to skip. So we need to go ahead and get rid of all of that stuff, but in this case, we have to do that cut right on a beat so that we don't lose the counts of the music. Let's see if we can do it.
I do my makeup in somebody else's car.
All right, so it's good up until then. What I need to do is find a moment to do a break, but I need to make sure that it's on one of the counts. And the counts, I mean like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Like that's the count. That's how I'm tapping my foot. So I'm going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So right before that skip, I feel like we can place a break in there and be able to cut it. So I'm going to do letter B and then find where that weird sound stops. And then it kicks back in right here. Okay? And you can see the waveform gets really large. Now there is a little technique you can use which will help place that cursor right at the, what we like to call the attack of that music. That's called a transient. There's a button right here, upper left hand corner. It's kind of catty corner from that zoomer magnifying glass. There's something that says tab to transients, and I activated it. Now what happens is I use the tab key on the keyboard. It moves the cursor to the nearest attack. So I don't have to guess where the attack is in this case. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to do letter B. Okay, again, I'm using tab to transient, which is this button right here. It's blue. So now anytime I have the cursor in the clip and I hit the tab key, it's jumping to the nearest attack. Okay. Now I'm going to highlight it because I know that's the whole mistake, and I'm going to do backspace. I'm in shuffle mode, so it is going to move it automatically. Let's rewind it a little bit and see how close I got. Remember, I want to be able to tap my foot and not lose the count. It's pretty close. It feels like it has a little bit of a hiccup. 2, 3, 4, 1. See, it's a little early right here. So I'm going to do my best to do some zooms and see if I can bring a little bit of that back. Now, I'm in shuffle. What I'm doing is I'm going to the clip, which is on the left-hand side, and I'm going to click with the trimmer, and I'm just slowly going to move it to the right. I'm going to go right here. It's going to push it a little bit, and now I'm going to back up and give it a listen. I think that fixed it, didn't it? Listen, the counts are really nice now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Right on. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't even hear that there's a little cut right in that area. So again, I used a tab to transient to make the cut for the right clip, and then I had to freehand that trim on the left clip so that I could get it really nice and finessed.
We ordered different drinks at the same bars.
Good. So it's going to play. Everything else is good. I am, just for the sake of making this sound nice and clean, even though in my instructions it doesn't say to do a fade, I am going to fade out the end of this thing so it doesn't just cut. And I'm going to use the fade tool. That's upper right hand corner. I'm in the smart tool mode. I get the box. I'm going to drag it so that this is about a 3.5 second fade. And let's see what I did. Nice. It just fades it out nice and smooth. And now I can look at the whole thing, and this is what it ends up looking like. So you can see I have my 2 tracks, voiceover, sound effects. I have things named, pigs, bowling ball. I have the Dunbar wave in here, and then I fixed the music so that the whole thing sounds good. Now what I'm going to do, just so you can compare yours to mine, is I am going to play the whole thing so that you can listen to what the finished product should be, and then you can make sure that yours matched it, so you didn't leave something out or you didn't cut anything out. Also, as it's playing, you should follow the script and make sure that you didn't accidentally cut out a word or two. Okay, so let me go ahead and play the whole thing. Enjoy.
A pleasant good afternoon to you. This is Steve Julian with the KPCC News Watch. Here's the latest breaking news for Southern California. The Foothill Freeway has been closed down when a truck full of pigs tipped over with more than 100 of the animals still roaming the freeway. In sports, Pasadena City College professor Jeff
Dunbar
bowled a perfect 300 at the Bahamas bowling lanes this past weekend. We will have the weather forecast right after this short timeout.
This is 89.3 KPCC Pasadena, Southern California Public Radio.
Taking a quick check at the weather, we'll have low clouds with a chance of light sprinkles. Now back to the music on KPCC with this all-time classic from my personal collection.
I do my makeup in somebody else's car. We order different drinks at the same bars. I know about what you did and I wanna scream the truth.
And that's it. That's what it should sound like. Mine is about a minute and 15 seconds or so. Yours might be in the same type of range. But make sure that you're hearing both tracks and that when you look at the mixer, which is Control equals, that you see activity here, right, when they're playing, for example.
Pigs tipped over with more than 100 of the
You see activity on both tracks. Nothing is italicized. Nothing's blank. And the outputs match. In this case, it says main. All right, so let's go ahead and refer back to our instructions. And now we're at the end, which is once complete with your edit, bounce mix as a stereo interleave MP3 file submitted to Canvas along with the comments of the answered questions. So before I do any kind of bounce, I like to do the save, right? So that's Control S. And let's go ahead and draw the selection. Remember, you're going to do this every time. You're going to go to the time line at the top. I'm going to click and drag all the way to the left. So everything is highlighted, and really it's just the amount of time is highlighted. That's what you want to confirm. Make sure you don't have any letter M's pushed. You don't have any letter S's pushed or letter I, and nothing is record enabled. Now you can come to the File menu, upper left-hand corner. You're going to scroll down to Bounce Mix. Bounce Mix, it says Edit Exercise 2 Revise Number 2. So that's the current file name. I might give this even something better so I know what it is. I'm going to call this GD Edit 2 Mix. All right, so GD Edit 2 Mix. File type is not WAV, so I do need to change this. File type should be MP3. The mix source, that mix source is supposed to show whatever the outputs you were using on your mixer view. So in this case, mine said main. So I'm going to make sure that this is still the main, which is my main. That's the other way you're going to make this bounce work, by the way. So that mix source, it needs to match the outputs that you see in your mixer view. All right, now it says file format. I do need to change that. It needs to say interleaved. It says interleave, bit depth 16 sample rate. I do also need to change this. That should say 44.1. And now it says the destination is the session folder bounce files. That's good. Don't change it. Lower left-hand corner, click offline. Now you're ready to bounce it. Lower right-hand corner, click bounce. It's going to ask you to MP3 name it. You can just skip this and choose OK. All right, it quickly just bounced it. I saw that it rendered it. I'm going to do one more save, which is Control S, and then I'm going to quit, which is Control Q. All right, I can close these windows. And now I'm going to go ahead and also close that window. You'll see there's a set of questions, 5 questions right here. And we did the bounce mix as a stereo MP3 file. Now we need to attach it to Canvas. All right, remember I said I always like you to double check that MP3 before you upload it into Canvas, let's go ahead and go locate it. So I need to go to my documents. I'm going to go to my documents folder, TVR2A sessions, double click, edit exercise 2 rev 2, that's the name of the session, double click. And in here, I do see a bounce files folder. Double click. There's that file. I can double click that too.
A pleasant good afternoon to you. This is Steve Julian with the KPCC Newswatch. Here's the latest breaking news for Southern California. The Foothill.
And make sure you give the whole thing a listen. It didn't cut anything off, and then at the end you hear the fade out. I'm going to just check the end to make sure it fades out. Okay, nice. So it worked. And that's just double checking that you have the right file and that it actually nothing went wrong when you did it. All right, so remember that because you're going to upload that to Canvas. Let's go ahead, go back to Canvas to the assignment, and now we're going to click Start Assignment. Okay, you're going to scroll up to where you see that rocket ship. You're going to go grab that MP3. You're going to drag and drop it. Make sure it's MP3. Do not send a WAV file. So there's the MP3. Go into your comments, and you'll go ahead and answer all of these questions right here. Once you have all of those typed in, then you'll click Submit Assignment. Click Submit Assignment. And you see the confetti, and you know you were successful. Okay, good work everybody, and enjoy.